you're looking at people's titles and you're just imagining like the life that they're living and how it's better somehow because of their unique gifting and how they're using it. Psychologically, if I believe I'm going to be happier there, I'm less happy here. I think it's on the employees, the workers, to say like, I need to get really, really clear with what I need out of work. And then the employer can say, you know what, I know that I'm going to have a really effective employee if it's partnership.
Welcome to the Cincinnati Business Podcast, where we give you practical tips and tricks to grow yourself and your business. And brought to you by the Cincinnati Podcast Studio. John, I'm really excited to have you here because you have two really unique skill sets. One of them is you have a really cool talent for finding and helping people retain really cool talent. That is kind of the business you run on the day-to-day basis with AGI. Mm-hmm. The other part of that is the part that was most impactful to me, is the idea of finding purpose in your work. So for those of you guys who don't know, John started a company called The Purpose Promise. It's also a book that you wrote and a workbook that you wrote. And that has been a process that you have taken lots of people through, including myself, about how to find what you are passionate about in work. And I think when I look at even my own life, and my wife and I went through this process together, as you know, and I see so many people who are walking around almost like zombies because they feel like they don't know what they want to do with their life. And I think that is a huge problem. And so I love that you are trying to tackle that head on. So I'm so stoked that you're here today. This is really, really fun for me. So I want to just dig right into purpose, because I think that is a big thing. And then I want to hit near the end of our conversation, I want to talk about how do you as managers and people leaders retain awesome people and hire really awesome people?
Sure.
Because I think part of the purpose of a manager is to understand that that's their job. They need to hold on to really cool people and develop them and pay them well and all these things. So talk to me about purpose. Where did the drive for purpose become something that you turned into a business?
Yeah, well, vocationally, just running a recruiting firm, which was our first entrepreneurial venture, I saw a common denominator, and that was people would come to us for new work, right? And then they'd come back to us after we placed them in the work they thought they wanted, and they'd say, what else you got? And after I saw that so many times, it became clear, like, we're just leading people into this cycle of disengagement. And it was mostly because they just had such low self-awareness around how they were uniquely built and what they wanted out of life.
What did you feel in that moment when you realized it was disengagement you were giving people?
Yeah, I mean, I remember exactly where I was. I was on a run, and some of these conversations were piling up, and I was just like, there's got to be a better solution here, right? Because our mission, our organizational mission, was to change life through better work.
Yeah.
But clearly we weren't meeting that. And so in the days that followed, where that was that big aha that we're perpetuating a large issue, which is disengagement, the solution also came. And it came from my own life's journey into this very question of what's my life's purpose. So I kind of have a mantra in my life, and that's live it and lead it. Right. And so looking at what I've been through and how I've grown into who I am today and who I want to become it's great capital to be able to then lead something or lead others into that. Right. It's a great model for all of us. And for me personally, I just learned at an early age the value of retreating and getting out of the world and analyzing the voices that are telling you, you have to be this, you should be this, you're valuable if this is your identity, and all the other things that the world perpetuates at us, right?
Wait, why a young age? Why were you in that space that you could have even seen that you needed to do that? Because that's a grown-up skill.
Yeah.
That is something that I feel like I'm not grown up enough to be good at yet.
Yeah.
So,
and listen, I've reached no destination. I mean, there's still a journey of this, and it's an everyday journey.
Yeah.
Right. Because the noise at us telling us what we need to be and what we need to do in our lives as our identity is so loud. Right. So, I can't put my finger on a moment that I said, this is the type of contemplative life I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
It really just came through great mentorship and people in my life that saw things in me, that called it out, and that really encouraged me to live a reflective journey. Right.
Yeah.
And that just became kind of my calling, really, was to my identity statement, which we might get into on how you come to an identity statement, which drives your purpose and drives what assignments you take on, is a reflective encourager. And so I know that I am uniquely built to reflect on my own journey and be able to encourage others based on what I'm learning about myself, and sit with others to reflect and ask the right questions so that they can get a greater idea of their identity and then encourage them to live in it. And that's kind of what the Purpose Promise came about, and the movement that we believe is really important for America.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. I think that's a very unique thing, because the amount of people in the world today who actually are reflective are categorized as weird people, generally. Yep. Especially in this information age where everything is available at our fingertips. We just ask Google, now ChatGPT, what is it that we need to know, instead of actually having the skill of looking inward and trying to understand why we need to know this. I think that's really, really valuable. So then when you were thinking about the idea of purpose, because you were seeing this churn and burn of people that you were getting placed into agencies, wherever you were placing. I think it was restaurant industry, right? Correct. Is where you were at the beginning? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you were seeing this churn. What was the number one thing, or were you seeing a series of things that these people were exhibiting when they came back to you?
Yeah, a lack of self-awareness. I mean, just 100% a lack of self-awareness.
Interesting.
And to your previous point, it's just getting worse.
Yeah.
Because we will take in more information today than somebody that was born in 1910 would take in their whole life.
Yeah.
And so what we call this journey around purpose and finding a career that you love, or finding an intentional life plan and then integrating it with your work, is a process of discernment. Mm-hmm. And discernment is very simply being able to take in the information that's given to you in all the different modalities that we receive it, and critically look at it to take information into the knowledge that you want to keep.
Yeah.
And say that's true or that's not true. And if it's not true for you and your journey, you don't believe it, dispel it and focus on the knowledge that you are called to, and then take that knowledge and be able to analyze it so that it becomes wisdom, which is application into one's life, right? That's the process of discernment, moving information into knowledge and then knowledge into wisdom. And it is swimming upstream, right? Because like you said,
without a process specifically.
Totally. Yeah. And you know what? Look, it doesn't show up in your bank account. Like if we talk about why it's not valued, it doesn't, if you call the energy company and say, hey, I've got a late bill, but hey, I've really been discerning, or I've really been spending quality time in these relationships, they're probably going to shut your energy off still, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we live in this world where we value the things that we think are most important, and the world tells us what's most important is often finance, right?
Yeah.
And so this is why it's so hard to do this discernment and live in this contemplative life, out of which creates purposeful identity, is because A, the world just doesn't value it, and B, it's so foreign to the way that we're taking in so much and not really criticizing the information to get to wisdom.
Yeah. Well, I think that was really interesting when I went through the process, because I want to talk about the tenets of purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think you call it something different, but like when I went through the process, there was a moment in there where you choose what is the monetary value I need to put on myself, or what I need to be receiving. Like, I think we called it like a must-have.
Yes.
At some point. But one of the things that I loved about the process was there was also a list of it cannot have this, which I thought was super interesting. So walk us through kind of what you ended up finding were the key parts of purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the basis of it, the foundation of discernment and kind of creating your unique identity around your intentional life that's integrated with your work life, which is what we define purpose as, the intentional integration of your best life with your work life.
Yeah.
all comes from the same thing that you would experience if you were to go into therapy, which is cognitive behavioral therapy or mindset. Realizing that all of our beliefs about who we should be and what we should do in life stem from our memories. And we have there's such value in understanding our memories so that we can either adopt or negate the beliefs that then drive our thoughts and feelings, and our thoughts and feelings then drive our behaviors. So what most people will do when they don't have a high self-awareness around their past, or they haven't dug in to heal or really process those things, they'll just go after a job, right? Just the actions or the behaviors, or let's do this, and hope that it's actually going to bring them satisfaction, where they have very low self-awareness around, when was I told this? Who told me this? We call it the family of origin belief. There's so much that's wound into our memories around what we should be or what we can be or what we believe we should be, right? And that's what drives career and vocational decisions usually. But if we don't have awareness around it, then we can't really leverage the truth of it, right? So people are believing lies because they haven't done the hard work of understanding their memories, their beliefs, their thoughts and feelings about success, and then what they should do in their career based on those realities.
Well, I think one of the things that I think has been interesting to me as I've done that journey, both in therapy and in the Purpose Promise, is that I don't think I knew what satisfaction was for me.
That's right.
So I don't know if I could even describe the goal of what I actually wanted, where I was chasing this thing that had no form for me. So I didn't know where to point myself to eventually land in the spot that I knew I would love and enjoy. And the funny thing is even during the process when I went through it with you, there was no mention of entrepreneurship in it at the time for me. And then yet here I am 2 years later into that journey and thriving. So walk me through, where do people start when they start to be really reflective? And what are some of the key things you ask people in those moments?
Yeah, well, what you just alluded to, and you're not alone. I mean, millions of other people are chasing this view of success that they haven't even defined.
Yeah.
Right? So what is success is like the catalytic question.
Yeah.
Right. And what we allude to is the components of what success is a whole life vision. Right. So you weren't even thinking about entrepreneurship. But then when we broke down these categories, which the first one was, how do you leverage your gifts? Right. So we always determine gift with kind of 3 overlapping components. First is your talents, which you're naturally good at. The second is your skills, which you've learned to be good at. And then the third are your passions, what you love to do. Right. And these are, pretty elementary exercises to be able to peel back the onion on yourself, your past, and say like, whoa, here's like the sweet spot overlap of the 3. And that's the first section, your gifts. And then the second was about what you've already alluded to, is your material needs and your material wants. And be able to say, hey, what are my healthy needs that I'm driving after? And what are my healthy wants, meaning in the future? And then what are some of those things that are baked into my life that are unhealthy? And how do we look at a pruning season of saying like, I want to run after healthy and just determine what this need really is? Because 99% of people, if you asked them what will make you happy in your career, they'll say more money.
Yeah.
And evidence shows that is not the fact, right? So it's a great just opportunity to peel back the onion on that mirage of success, that of which we think in the world perpetuates is all about money.
Well, to that point, I've made less than I've made my entire career in the last 2 years, and I've been the happiest I've been.
Amen.
In the last 2 years.
Yeah. Because you're probably, I know this because we worked in this, you're working more in your gifting, right?
Yes.
And that third component part is your relational boundaries, right? So this is a key component of purpose and what you should actually do vocationally based on a really intentional plan to thrive in relationships. And so when you have that plan, then you can put the boundaries around, this is what I need out of work and what I don't need out of work in order to thrive here. Because when we look at wealth, which is a key catalyst towards success, we know there's 4 component parts. And the irony is the world will tell you there's only one component part of wealth, and that's finance.
Yeah.
And that is the first, right? And we know that from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as well as many studies that shows that we will suffer or struggle in life when our needs aren't met. But once those needs are, the finance exceeds those needs, then money's motivational capability is greatly reduced, right? And the other components are big.
Yeah.
So that's why defining what your actual needs and healthy wants is so catalytic, because then you have a line in the sand to say, like, that's what I need and that's what I want from a family perspective. And then you balance the relational focus in there.
Yeah.
And then that third piece is really the deep work of understanding what you've been told about what you need to do, who you are, and family of origin, or what we call the Jones effect. Right? Where the world is perpetuating something at you that you're believing you will only be valuable if you reach this level of your career. And most of the times when people go through that process, they realize they're believing a lot of lies.
Yeah. Well, okay. Dig into that a tiny bit more for me. You call it the Jones effect. Describe that.
Yeah. Well, the best analogy I have is from my own life, right? Live it and lead it. Literally, across the street from me are the Joneses. They're amazing people. And they have a meticulously designed, beautiful yard, right? And I don't like yard work, Brian. And I look over at them, and it's really tempting for me to have to feel like I have to get out there because I've got to keep up with the Jones yard edition, right? And I'm letting what's out there depict what I need to do. Right? Like deep down, subconsciously, just looking at their yard and being in awe. I mean, I get the benefit of looking at their great yard, right? But being in awe of the beauty, it just subconsciously motivates me to want to be like them. But guess what? I don't want to be like them. Like, I have no interest in doing that amount of yard work. You know, again, it's probably, sorry, Jones, it's because I get the benefit of looking at your yard and you don't looking at mine. But like, it's a great analogy for what happens so subconsciously to us in our vocational journey, where we look, and I mean, I fall prey to this all the time still. You know, you look, especially now with social media and, you know, LinkedIn, which is a great tool and we're on it, right?
Yeah.
But you're looking at people's titles and you're just imagining like the life that they're living and how it's better somehow because of their unique gifting and how they're using it. And it's this mirage that you're allowing to drive you, but it's not real. It's not the way you were built, right? And so being able to retreat and contemplate, like, what's my unique design? And can I, the big question, can I be content in who I am enough that when I am walking in my purpose, I will be provided for and protected? And that takes a whole heck of a lot of trust when you arrive at your unique identity. And again, this is like a journey. And I've written a book about it, multiple books about it at this point, and I live in these principles, and it's still a journey because the world's tempting components are so powerful.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And specifically when we are driven in this American culture for comfort.
Yes. Ooh.
When we push ourselves past comfort, that's where the growth happens. But in comfort, generally we don't grow. In fact, we tend to grow lax. And so I think that's one of the cool things I pulled out of the work with you guys was the ability to understand that, one, it's not bad to enjoy work. Like, that is a great thing. And to be comfortable in a work environment is awesome. But also, if I'm going to stay comfortable, the most comfortable thing that I could probably do is stay home in my pajamas and stay in bed.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And that's not going to lead to a satisfied life.
That's right.
Not going to lead to a purpose that I feel pushes me onward, pushes me towards a greater goal. And so, like, when I came out of doing that process with you of like understanding what the relational needs are that I had, I recognized that when I went into interviews for new jobs, I said, I will work my heart out for this company, but you come second in my life. Like, my family is the first. And I said that in interviews. Like, I think I said it in every one I had where I was like, you guys are great. I love what you guys are doing, but I'm not going to kill myself for you.
That's right.
I'm going to work really hard when I'm there with you. And then I'm leaving it at the door and I'm going home. and to spend time with my family.
And people just, they really resonate with that.
Yeah.
I mean, whether they'd say that, that deep down in our soul, we experience that, and we all kind of yearn for that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's the deal. I mean, like, people are more unhappy today than they were yesterday. I mean, the facts don't lie, like the happy quotient, right?
Yeah.
And work is the easy villain. It's really easy to point your finger at work and say, that's the easy thing I can change to try to get happier, because we will spend more time at work than we will anywhere other than our bed in our whole life. And it's the easiest to just try to move to the next one. Whereas working on your relationships is hard. Whereas prioritizing the things that sometimes won't show up on the balance sheet or in the column of you did a great job, that's hard, right? But we're called as humans to live in a place of selflessness and, in some instances, outside our comfort zone, to your point. But most people, and quite frankly, the world will tell us, just be comfortable, right? All the marketing messages.
Yeah.
You know? And if it's, everything in life is a cost-benefit analysis, right? Psychologically. And if we start to look at our life, again, analyzing our memories and reforming beliefs about comfort/suffering, right? Two different sides to the coin. We start to realize that there's a lot of value in suffering because we grow.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of value.
Yeah.
And if we start to value that more than comfort, then we're able to take greater risks in life, and we're able to say, like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and throw the things that the world's telling me about who I am to the side, and I'm gonna map my own course here.
Yeah. So then someone's listening to this episode and they are trying to figure out their purpose.
Yeah.
That what drives them. What is the first step that they can take towards that right now?
Yeah. Well, commit to self-awareness and to not letting what everybody else is telling you dictate your decisions about your work. Like, that's number one, right? And once you get to a point of that desire, like really, really believing that and saying that's going to be, just lead me on this, what we call the treadmill of disengagement, which millions of people are on, then it's time to just ask yourself some really basic questions about your past and start to frame out some of the things that we had talked about, you know, your unique giftings and your real material needs and wants and relational boundaries, and maybe some of the hard questions about where you've picked up some of the beliefs about work and identity and value that you might be carrying into the decisions you've made about your career. And obviously, we've crafted a process around that. So we really believe that it's catalytic for many individuals, and it's really exciting to see the fruit of that. So we'd love to be a resource for that. But very simply, those are the major components that at least somebody can start thinking through on their own to have a better framework of what their true purpose is.
Now, I know that probably if anyone who is listening to this is where I was maybe 8 years ago, with very little time spent in reflecting on myself at all. What do you recommend as a kind of an easy first step if they're specifically thinking about work? They're trying to think about how they can thrive in their workplace. How do you encourage people to learn how to reflect?
Yeah. Well, you have to make space for it, right? Look at your calendar and make some space. You know, if it's filled, go ahead and put something on your calendar. It just says, it's funny, I schedule 15 minutes of boredom every day, where I know I can't have my phone, and I schedule it. I put it on my calendar, because if I don't do it, if I don't put it on my calendar, it won't happen, right? And then I start to prioritize it, because I see what happens in my boredom. I'm restored. I'm creative. I'm all these things. I'm grateful, all these things, right? So, you know, just starting slow by prioritizing some time of reflection, and then just like a great exercise to increase your self-awareness is literally go through your senses. And when you're just schedule 5 minutes of boredom and just say, what am I literally feeling right now? You know, like feeling, and what am I smelling right now? And what am I hearing right now? And it starts to reduce the noise of the world and starts to get you really in tune with yourself, right? So these are really simple exercises to start kind of building the muscle of a contemplative life so that you can live what we call in the Purpose Promise an inside out life, as opposed to an outside in life where you're constantly just reacting to the things that's happening to you. When you learn the contemplative life, when you learn these reflective tools and you gain that muscle memory, you're able to live from the inside out.
Man, I hadn't even thought of another question to ask you on top of that because I'm now reflecting on it myself. But like, that is so true. I think most of us, when we say that we are probably living the least healthy version of ourselves, it is a reactive self. Looking at my own life, that is so very true. Now I know business is often a very reactive space. You have to live in, hey, what's the scenario of the day that I got to deal with? So when I encourage people the ability to be able to look back and engage with yourself and that sort of thing, I'm even thinking more simply like look back at your career as it has been, and say, where are the things what am I thriving in? What was the most enjoyable part of what I did? What was the most difficult part of what I did? Where did I feel like I was delaying because I didn't want to pay attention to those things? And what were the things that I was excited about because they were going to push me to a new spot? Or I was excited about the outcome, or I was like something like that. What gave me energy? Those are the sort of ways that I say start in reflection.
Well, you just intuitively did something that somebody that's self-aware does.
Yeah.
And that's you just asked yourself some really big and awesome questions, right? And so the questions that we ask ourselves often will lead us to that discernment process of information and knowledge and wisdom. To your point, one of the most elementary exercises, if you're really trying to gain kind of the quantifiers of what success is from a standpoint of vocation, is just draw a line on a horizontal piece of paper and map out your career, the highs, the lows, everything in between. As you know, this is one of the exercises that we get to in the Purpose Promise, then asking the right questions around what are the common denominators around the low points? What are the common denominators around the high points? Like, this is pretty elementary, and it is always profound, right? So again, when we look back, we usually gain a lot of wisdom around how we are currently and how we can push forward. It's not rocket science, but it's certainly fleeting because it's easier to look out and say, I want to be that, than look in and say, who should I be?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think the interesting thing about that exercise is that when I hit the end of it, I intuitively knew all the answers that I got from that exercise.
Right.
But it was never written down in a way that I could ingest it.
Yeah, that's a good word.
And so I think a lot of us sit in this space, and I know I'm generalizing, but sit in this space of like, we grumble, we complain about our work, we talk bad about our coworkers, and I think those are normal parts of being in business sometimes. That happens. But all those things that we talk about are all indicators as to where we want to be eventually and where we really do not want to be. And so the more that we can push ourselves to those levels, to those spaces of where we find joy, where we find meaning and purpose, there's that word again, the more healthy we will be in our life in general.
That's right. Well, there's two psychological temptations here that keep us from lives of purpose, right? Yeah. One of them, and we've kind of talked about this earlier, but is the tyranny of the urgent. Like, why do we believe that everything is so stinking urgent? I mean, you allude to it in business. Like, yeah, you have to make some calls quickly every once in a while, but not that often, actually. Like, we just have this belief that everything's got to happen now. And it's just not true. And so we need to really question that belief moment by moment so that we can live in a restful pace, to have the margin, the space in our lives to contemplate truth, right? And so that's a big one. I mean, that's really indicative of the life that I want to live. And I'm raising my hand to that still continuing to be a challenge. Yeah. You know, I don't know if you deal with that, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. The tyranny of the urgent is, especially as someone who's, luckily the business we are in right now is so flexible that we can pivot, with the temptation of, do we actually need to pivot?
That's right.
Do we actually need to make these changes right now?
And then the second one, Brian, I think is just kind of underlies this whole conversation. And that's this temptation of the destination mindset, right? Where like here, we believe that we will be happier when we get there. And it constantly has us striving towards there and missing the beauty of here, right? So just psychologically, if I believe I'm going to be happier there, I'm less happy here, right? And that's just stinking thinking, man. And I've wrestled through this and continue to wrestle through it of realizing that the beauty is legitimately in the journey, right? Every day. And it brings on a grateful posture. As you know, gratitude is one component of the Purpose Promise journey, and creating habits, right? Not just fleeting moments, but habits towards gratitude, because purposeful people are living right here, right now in the journey with excitement and hope about what could be, even when they're dissatisfied, but still realizing there's tons to be grateful for around us. You know, it's truly a posture of discernment that creates a lot of wisdom to figure out, where should I be?
Here's a question for you. How did you find the last podcast that you listened to? Was it recommended by a friend? Did you see an ad for it? Or what about a short clip online that made you want to listen more? Here at the Cincinnati Podcast Studio, we help you produce your own podcast. And with your show, we create up to 8 clips per episode to help you reach your audience faster. These clips are short, engaging, and with catchy subtitles because we know your audience is probably scrolling on their phone, muted on the toilet. If you've been wanting to start or upgrade your podcast, check us out at CincinnatiPodcastStudio.com.
Yeah, and I think that's a valuable reminder, because we don't often see how much joy is in the now. Especially for guys like you and I who are very driven to try new things, build things, go after. Like it is very hard to see the now as much of a positive as what I think the future could be. We were even talking about this off camera about the idea of, as we raise our kids, we're like, oh, when they get to X age, it'll be easier. Or
That's
when
right.
we get to, I'm terrified of what the teenage years will be. Oh my gosh, I don't know what that's going to be like. But like, it is this mindset of, but yet we look at the spaces where we were before and we're like, oh, I missed that. Like I miss the moment when, we both, like, I fall asleep with my baby in my arms, like, not very safe, but it was still warm and cuddly. It was fun.
Totally.
Like, I think we do have such an interesting combination of the Jones effect and this forward-looking. We need to win. We need to thrive. We need to make more money. We need to be happier. We need to all that.
Yeah. And I think this stage of life, although this season of life, although I've spoken about it, we see the data revealing that people are more anxious and depressed and unhappy and a lot of things that come with that, drug abuse and all this stuff, right? And I really think it's the tip of the iceberg, right? And I think deep down, my hope is that we have some growth because of those realities, where the pendulum's going to swing, where people can start to ask and answer the question, what is success to me and what do I truly value? And, again, I mean, I write books about this, but I am a student of this. In fact, I just got off an experience where I had to remind myself that my value in my relationship with one of my kids was helping them learn about themselves, not disciplining them. And so the tyranny of urgent that sometimes tempts me is we got all this stuff to do. We got to get people here. And we got to, believing that this is more important, getting people to practice on time, than taking advantage of a moment of great growth by slowing down and asking the right questions to my son in this particular instance so that he could learn something about his true self. So in that moment, what I was doing, again, I failed in this moment. I succeed too, but I'm learning. I valued being on time to a practice more than I valued the growth of my son. And when I peeled back the onion and I contemplated the end of the day, I said, man, I know what success is. I know my goal as a father, and I blew it, right? So, just to the authentic journey of purpose is not something that you will arrive at. It's creating habits in your life, like contemplating the day and examining the day, like creating boring time in your day. These are the moments we have to bake into the rhythm of life in order to live a meaningful life that can then be integrated into our work life.
I'm stuck on the old joke where it's like, I lost you because I got stuck on the moment where you said that you're trying to not discipline, you're trying to speak into their identity.
Yeah.
Wow, that was deep. How did you come to that?
Oh man. Well, I just got off vacation, right? I went out on vacation last week. And vacation is a time and just being really authentic where I think, okay, I'm going to be really rested. I'm going to have a slower pace, right? And I did. I really did. My kids are old enough where that is the case, right? I know when they're younger, it's more like a trip, not a vacation. It's different, but another story for another day. But I realized that on my vacation, when a behavior or an attitude came with one of my kids, that I had the awareness in the margin to stop and say, instead of disciplining or affirming, I'm going to dig in and ask the right questions so that my son or daughters could come to an understanding as to why they were behaving or why they had this attitude, right? And that was beautiful. And full on relational intimacy, beautiful growth between me and my kids. Awesome, right? And so, much like most vacations, you come back and you got a big old pile of stuff to do, right? And the big question for me was, how do I remain in that restful posture? Because rest really, and the pace of life that we're talking about that we want, it's not a vacation. It's not a place. It's not even a time. It's a mindset, right? And so this week, this is my first week back, what I've been really intentional is literally carving out time in each hour to say, am I still in a restful posture? And I have to ask, am I believing that things are urgent, right? Am I believing that it's more valuable to get them here or get to this practice on time as opposed to stop and ask the questions like I did when I didn't have those variables in my calendar, right? And it's not been easy, but quite frankly, it's moved the dial a little bit for me. And that's just the thing. I'm creating habits around rest over the course of the day that can help me live in the quantity of success that looks like building up my kids, not just disciplining them.
Yeah. One of the analogies then that could be played is the way we talk to ourselves. If we are in a space that we are consistently busy and not being aware enough of what we are doing, we will resort to often negative views of ourselves.
Yes.
We will try to punish ourselves for mistakes.
Totally.
We will try to degrade our own value because of this, that, and the other. When those moments happen, obviously rest is a key factor, being slow enough.
Yeah.
How do you combat those negative thoughts?
Yeah.
Those negative voices inside our head?
Yeah. Well, part of my life's journey and work around purpose is about trust. Because if I have, and we know that the compilation of this retreat experience that we've crafted called the Purpose Promise is a destination, if you will, called the Purpose Dreams Analysis, where we have on a one-page document, here's all the focal points of my purposeful life that I can then integrate in my work life. I know that's my unique path, and it changes with different seasons, right? So it's always a responding analysis. But can I trust? Do I value those quantities of success, those qualifications of success enough to believe that if I walk in that I will have enough money to pay the bills, that I will have enough identity on LinkedIn to be respected or whatever, just real human stuff, right? And the answer is yes, in my best self, in my inside out self, right? And it's true for the way that we're created. When we're walking in the way that we were created in our purpose with all these things in mind, we will be provided and protected But it's so easy to not trust that because the world will tell you, no, you need to be like him or her, or you need more, right? So for me, that word trust is a big constant prayer and contemplation. Is, am I truly trusting in this unique design that is me?
So then how have you taken this purpose, understanding, and this student that you've become of this? How have you enacted that into your talent acquisition business that you do?
Yeah, it's really a beautiful offshoot of what we've learned after having many years in this space of what really is motivating to employees. When you empower somebody to understand their unique self and their purpose and create an intentional plan of well-being and work, then they are driven when you can you can help them define that. And then you as an employer, which is our clients, can come alongside them in a way where they can maximize their work productivity and their life productivity. It's a great meshing of what the new psychology of work is around purpose, that of which we've talked about all today, and what new organizational performance management should be. So it bakes right in there beautifully, and we've seen organizations literally be transformed when they realize that they are no longer in an employer-employee construct like days of old, because their employees are yearning for greater purpose, right? But they have no idea what that is without the right tools to self-reflect and define it. So the employers that say, hey, we care about you actually searching and discovering this part of yourself and having an intentional life plan that we can help you integrate into our work plan. Man, you want to talk about a motivated employee and a very retainable employee that will produce because they're in their sweet spot.
So is part of what you're doing now also coaching these businesses that come to you?
Yeah, around what performance management looks like in that arena, because it feels very idealistic to many employers, but it's totally not. It's extremely practical. But most employers haven't really driven a performance management system that will allow autonomy of an individual defining what their success criteria are, right? So we moved from, if you look over the last 500 years, we had an agrarian economy that was very much focused on a labor force that was watching out for their neighbors and being able to use their gifts and, often founded on the farm to create a community, really relational rich. Then we moved into the Industrial Revolution, which has really been the biggest, and it's been a great blessing for our innovation and for our productivity and effectiveness and efficiency, right? But it did create this mindset of division between employer and employee. Now, in the last 10 years, we've seen this purpose conversation perpetuate so much. And of course, COVID drove that, and the gig economy is driving. And there's a lot of factors that create what we call the 10 variables to the new psychology of work. And we believe that we are now moving into a different economy around how labor organizes, and we would call it a partnership economy, where an employer and an employee are going to they're going to be symbiotic and most productive and effective when there is a win-win on both sides. Gone are the days when an employee wants to be told that you're a cog in the wheel of my productivity, and so create value for this organization and we'll give you a golden watch at the end of 35 years. It's gone, right? So we've got to adapt. When the music changes, so must the dance, right? So employers that are realizing this, and they're mostly realizing it because they're super frustrated because they can't find talent and they can't retain talent, and therefore they can't grow or meet their KPIs. They're starting to have to adapt to the new psychology of work. And we believe that purpose and self-reflection on one's purpose is a major catalyst in the way performance management is done.
You mentioned something about the 10. What are these 10? Well, you don't have to go into all of them, and we don't have time to get into all of them. But what are some of the key things that you're seeing of these 10 that you've noticed? Yeah.
Well, first one's autonomy. I mean, autonomy is a major driver for a lot of people and what they want out of work. And autonomy is extremely misunderstood. like COVID perpetuated this idea that autonomy is you get to work from home and we'll check on you every once in a while and maybe we'll monitor you. And, that's not what autonomy is. Autonomy is the ability to allow somebody to work within their gifting for maximum productivity. When somebody is producing in their gifting, their job satisfaction soars. So it's looking at systems around performance that says, are we actually perpetuating great work performance, or are we just kind of like throwing this buzzword of autonomy out and saying, oh, you can work from home for a couple of days a week? It's really interesting. Like with the work from home movement, which we believe is autonomy, it actually hasn't moved the dial on job satisfaction.
Interesting.
Because most companies don't realize that it's about helping their employees be the most productive they can be no matter where they are, right? So removing the barriers to high productivity is the key component in performance management, specifically around this word autonomy, which is one of the 10 factors that we see in the new psychology of work.
If I were to guess, another one of those is probably trust.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's another one that's so, thrown around and also misconstrued quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right. We gain trust organizationally when we have two components on two different extremes, right? And Patrick Lencioni has been a great master of this, right? One side is we trust in the competence of those that we work with. And the other is we like the people we work with. Right. And it's really interesting because most companies, and they don't really realize this, but they usually try to build trust on one or the other, but not the both and. And it's the mixture of the both and, where I love Brian. I know your family. I can't wait to come be with you. I trust you because we've had this experience and you do what you say you're going to do constantly over time. And then there's the competency, because if I'm on team with you and you're constantly dropping balls, guess what's going to happen? I'm not going to trust you. Right. Yeah. So it's the both and that actually increases the trust factor that then makes people enjoy work more. And that's one of the components that's often misinformed or at least not baked into performance management.
Well, I think it's also a reciprocal thing, because while we as an employer look at the employees to see if we can trust them, they look at us and say, can they trust us?
Man. Yes. Amen.
And I think often if I were to tie it closely to what you had just said, I think it's this difference between the work culture and if we actually give them the things that we say that we're going to give them.
That's right.
Like the promises that we make them.
That's right.
And so the reason you get a strike is because a paycheck bounces. So that is obviously like we didn't fulfill the promise of paying you. But also if we create this environment that doesn't allow people to actually fulfill their purpose, thrive as a person, do things that they actually feel like they are winning in, then they're not going to trust us.
That's so good.
I love that.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where we are, but we just need to call it out and say, let's not continue to operate in the old paradigms because they're not working organizationally. And there are so many, and I run in this small and medium-sized business space, and I get to coach a lot of great CEOs, and they're just all waking up at 2:00 in the morning with the same frustration, and that is, I cannot grow because I can't find and retain good talent. Well, that's actually the tip of the iceberg, right? And foundationally, it's because of a lack of good performance management in the partnership economy.
Then when you are talking to those people who are struggling to maintain awesome people, and you're trying to teach them about what the new normal, the new standard for the workplace is, because like you said, not the golden watch at the end of 35 years sort of place anymore. What are you seeing that is unhealthy about the new version of what work is? Because I think we as a people see the new way to work where it's this partnership as healthy. But I think there's an extreme to that.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing as the unhealthy version of this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the quiet quitting or disengagement, or not having the vernacular to say this is what I need out of work, is really a symptom of the problem of us not seeing work the way it should. Right. So, I always think about the fact that when I'm angry or frustrated or resentful, it's usually because of an expectation that I had that wasn't communicated or met.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I think most employees, where they have to own this, is they need to understand what they need and they need to ask for it. Right. Because most employers right now are going to say, yeah, you know what? Here's what I need. I need a good, productive employee that's going to show up on time and do what they say they're going to do. What do you need? And let me offer you what you need. And that's partnership, right? But we're far from that construct, right? Because we've had this employer-employee mentality. And now I think it's on the employees, the workers, to say, like, I need to get really, really clear with what I need out of work so that I can go to the right employer, right? Where I can use my gifts and I can meet my material needs and I can have the relational boundaries and all the things that we talked about with purpose. And then the employer can say, you know what? I know that I'm going to have a really effective employee if it's partnership. But what they need to bring to the table is what they truly need.
So you're saying that the idea of quiet quitting, which has been a buzzword, it's a little old now as a buzzword, but like, because that was definitely a big thing in the COVID era. But like this idea of quiet quitting is often more associated with someone's inability to know if they're actually in their purpose.
Absolutely. It's a lack of self-awareness.
Because a self-aware person would either perform or get the heck out.
That's it. Or ask, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing that's fascinating about the Purpose Promise. After years of doing this, what we realize is that 100% of people come to the process because they think they need to find new work. Only a third of the people, after they go through the process, realize that work was the sole problem. The other third, so there's 3/3, one third do leave and they say, all right, I need to find, now I have the wherewithal of what I need to work. But yours was unique too. Like you're in an entrepreneurial venture. It wasn't like we thought it was going to be. And that happens quite a bit. But once you have the awareness, then you can navigate it. 1/3 beyond the third that leaves the work they're currently in says, you know what? I was pointing a finger at work as a villain, but I've actually learned that some of my lifestyle habits and decisions are what I need to change. And it's not as much work as I thought. The other third, interestingly enough, says, now I know what I want out of work and I'm going to ask for it at this current environment. Because it's not as much the environment that I hate. It's just 1 or 2 or 3 different things about my lifestyle and what I really need out of my lifestyle in order to thrive in purpose. And they now have the vernacular to ask. And it is more common than ever that an employer will listen to that conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, all of our relationships, like if you come to me and you're like, hey, this is what I need from our relationship, I care.
Yeah.
And I want to meet your needs. And it doesn't mean that it's always just, yeah, all right, we're going to kind of make this happen for you. I mean, there's got to be a win-win.
Yeah.
But in the employer that is open to that conversation is more today than it ever has been. And that's a good thing.
Do you ever take employer and employee teams through this work together?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Do you find that it results in a loss of like them losing teammates or something like that?
Rarely, but sometimes. And the reality is it's better than quiet quitting. There's such wisdom in a good leader saying, and I'm walking with somebody right now who's in this. An organization says this has been a top employee for 18 years and he's just been in a season of disengagement. We agree to that. We don't know what to do. We don't know if he should leave, if he should stay, if we need to change. Can you put him through your process and include us in a regular meeting around redefining what his work here could look like so it can be more purposeful for him? Like, man, come on. You know, like that's just so awesome that we would treat each other that way after 18 years.
Yeah. That's
the right way to treat a valued friend or in this instance, partner or employee, right?
Yeah.
And that's a new construct, but the ROI on that, like it sounds so idealistic. It's mighty. Like you don't want to lose somebody that's been with your company for 18 years.
No.
Right? There's so much institutional value there and knowledge. And this individual really doesn't want to leave because he just doesn't really know why he's disengaged. And so we've just had great breakthrough as we're kind of on the tail end of this particular process with understanding what his path needs to look like there.
Yeah.
But in some instances, Brian, it's coming to the fork in the road and saying like, our time's done. And that's okay. Let's be honorable. Let's make sure that we leave well. Let's make sure we grab all that institutional knowledge and you don't just quit.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's such value for the business there.
Yeah.
It's just a much more wise way to handle the way that we come together in this thing we call work.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I love that. Because one of the, I'm sure you're well aware of, but we run the Cincinnati podcast studio off of EOS. And they love the analogy of right people, right seats.
Yes.
And I think they use the analogy of a bus, right, as is your business. And I think the thing that a lot of people forget is that there's a lot of other seats.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times as employers, we can just say, sorry, man, get out. You're not performing.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing, no, there's other seats here. There's another place that this person may thrive in. And sometimes it's on the employee to find the right seat that they can be in, and sometimes it's on the employer. And I just think that's super wise. I love it because I think some people who would be afraid to go through your process and say, all my employees are going to quit.
That's right. Well, there's such value if you look back, if you've been an employer and you've been in any of those hard realities of firing somebody. And I know there's 3 individuals that I've had to let go out of our organization that have come back to me some years later and saying that was the best thing that you could have done for me. And in one instance, I coach one of them now. And it's like, how beautiful is that? If we have enough trust, it comes down to trust. Like I know you and I were talking about part of the vision and mission of what you're doing here is to help companies have it be human facing. Like, so the people behind the business. Like if we think that business is truly like the catalyst of business, the foundation of business success is people, we sure should treat them well.
Yeah.
And sometimes releasing people that are in the wrong seat or on the wrong bus is the greatest form of love that we can do for people. It might seem like it's got profitability frustration. It might seem like, our business is going to fall apart if we just let this person go. It's the right thing to do. And if we take a long-term mindset, which business should be baked in, then it's a different way we should treat people than if we're always looking at the urgency, right?
Well, that is a perfect point to end this show. Thank you so much, John. This has been amazing. How can people get in contact with you if they are wanting to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, if you're somebody that's just feeling stuck, wondering what meaning or purpose looks like, purposepromise.org is the best place to find us. And if you're an employer that buys into this new psychology of work and wants to attract and retain talent so that there can be growth, it's agimanagement.com.
I love it. Man, John, this has been amazing. You've blown my mind once again. You constantly give fantastic insights. So thank you. This has been amazing. And I believe that everyone else listening feels the same way.
Thanks, Brian. What a joy.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cincinnati Business Podcast. If you like the show, the best way to support us is to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you fantastic content just like this. And if you are a greater Cincinnati-based business owner who has something you want to share with the world, reach out to me at brian@cincinnatipodcaststudio.com.